Hey folks, welcome to another Q&A with Helen Ponton. Just me today, no Carol or Carrie. So hopefully I can get these questions answered that you have. And I see there's quite a few already, so I am just going to jump in. First of all, Antoine Lewis, thanks for being first here. And your question is, my dad served in the Marines from October 69 to October 71. I'm trying to file for PTSD for him. How do I go about getting his medical records to start the process, or do I just file? You file. VA has a duty to assist him to get all of his service medical records, all his service records showing where and when he served. And from there, hopefully, it works out to get that going. What he needs to show is just that he served in Vietnam, really, and then you can show that it's due to his PTSD is due to, what do they call it? Fear of hostile activity, I think they would say there. So you want to file it, and you want VA to start this process. So that's what I would do. Midas Touch, what's the VA rating for bilateral shin splints? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't dealt with a shin splint case. I gotta imagine though they're probably pretty low. I'd be kind of surprised if it went above 20% actually. Jackson Workshop, have you seen people able to connect mental health secondary to tinnitus and migraines? Only been out of service for 1 year. Would filing primary be better for mental health? No mental health complaint. Let me rewind. Well, first of all, there's two questions. Yes, on the mental health secondary to migraines or or tinnitus. I find that tinnitus to me is very frustrating. So many vets have it. And what the VA doesn't take into account is, yes, there's ringing in the ears, but they don't take into account how isolating it can be, okay? Depending on how loud the ringing is, it can be to the point where you can't hear others around you. That noise compounds it, and people just want to stay by themselves. The isolating factor is contemplated, if you will, in the mental health regs, okay? So that would be a strong claim. It's one we fight all the time because the VA is so bad at acknowledging that that tinnitus can cause these other disabilities. Migraines is the same deal. I mean, you talk to somebody who has migraines, they have to a lot of times just remove themselves from a situation, remove themselves from, frankly, their community, and go lay in bed for however long just to get the migraine to go away. That isolation can cause problems as well. The loss of identity, meaning like you never know when you're going to have to lay down, you never know when you're going to have to get away from people, go into a dark space. That can be very disruptive. So yes, file those. No mental health complaint in service. Yeah, don't worry about that. I would just file the mental health. You could write a statement saying, hey, I have these, and I believe it's secondary to this. But they also need to look at it direct service connection. It's a great question, Jackson. Unfortunately, I'm seeing more and more of these, especially tinnitus cases, where the veteran has a strong mental health claim that they're not, VA's just ignoring, or they're just denying flat out. And let me make crystal clear why this is important. The VA rates tinnitus at a 10% total rating, nothing more you can get for that. But if the tinnitus is so bad that you can't really be around people, that you can't be around noise, that you just are, even when you're around people, you feel isolated because you can't really understand what's going on, that's a mental health condition. And the mental health condition there, just for what I said, could be 70% independent of the tinnitus. So instead of just having a 10% rating, which is like $143 these days, you could actually get a higher rating. You should get a higher rating, okay, due to that secondary condition. It's a great question. And again, I see this more and more. All right, John Johnson, Nexus letter from my doctor says patient can never stop CPAP that was medically prescribed. Good or bad Nexus? Well, that's not a Nexus. So that would go to the rating, okay? The Nexus is how is it connected to service? So if it's already connected, then that is a good one. For this new set of diagnostic codes it looks like they're going to come out with, you want him to say, how bad is it even after you get the CPAP? Does it totally cure you, or are you still having problems? The Kidman, glad you're doing more Q&A videos. We appreciate it. I got to tell you, I love this. It's fun to be here. Jody, glad it's Wednesday. Thank you for showing up. Steve Smith, is sleep apnea and heart condition, sick synapse syndrome with 2 lead pacers and GERD and secondary to PTSD. Thank you for your assistance. Those can be. You are going to need a really good doctor, and strong symptoms showing that started probably after the PTSD got bad, and I would want some pretty good buddy statements on that. That's going to be an uphill battle. VA hates secondary physical claims to PTSD. So I would, you can do that, but it would be hard. GERD, I would look at, are you drinking a lot, and is that causing problems, hiatal hernia, and is the drinking secondary to the PTSD, and you get it from there. Steve, that's a tough case, but if you have medical support to help you there, then I would go for it. All right, Jody, I was wondering if chronic fatigue syndrome could be secondary to medical side effects, or if it's a condition that's separate but related to chronic fibromyalgia. Jody, if you served in the Gulf, these would be easier because they should automatically service connect them. Could it be secondary to medical side effects? It could be. I don't know a medication off the top of my head that would show that it is, but it definitely could be. It is a separate condition from chronic fibromyalgia. Now, we've talked about this before. There's the concept of pyramiding, meaning if the main symptoms of each are the exact same, the VA is not going to pay you for each. They're going to pay you for whichever is worse. But chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia do have symptomatology that is different. So I would look to that. So, the easiest thing to do with a medical side effect as far as the medicine is just to look on the bottle and say, it'll tell you what could possibly happen due to you taking it. All right. Per Kitteman, long shot, but does anyone know how long it takes to get an exam after a deferred decision? What's CMP for depression in May? BES sent it back in, September, no movement. I wish I had an answer for you for that, but I don't. Bobby, question, those income from Social Security retirement count, does income from Social Security retirement, no, count against your TDIU claim? Great question, Bobby, and I'll expand on that. It's not just Social Security retirement, it's actually Social Security disability as well, but it's any passive income. So let's say you have, a rental property that you get $1,000 a month from. That's passive income, and you're not going to be charged for that. Same thing for like stocks or bonds. If you get, what do they call those, dividends or something, those also would not be, it's not income you're actively obtaining. It's not your work hour. It's just something you have, and it's a passive income. Okay, let's see, Matrixer. Can I apply for TDIU if I'm currently in a non-work status, but using accrued sick and annual balance until depletion, and at which time I will officially be separated from civil service? Yes, you can. You're not working. You're in a job, but it's like a Family Medical Leave Act. If you're doing that because you can't work, then yeah, you are. It's similar to the passive income in that they owe you that because you've accrued that money, but you're not actively working for it anymore. Andre, Camp Lejeune vet, 87, just had prostate surgery, and VA sent me a letter wanting me to go to a doctor to say how my cancer was caused by Camp Lejeune. I don't know why they would do that. I wish I could tell you why. I mean, the whole. You're going to get me on a riff here, but I feel like a lot of times VA sends people to CMP exams that are not pertinent to their claim, meaning like they already have the evidence that's proven to their claim, just to get it off their desk. Do you have to go? Yes. That's the thing about CMP exams that drive me crazy. Even if it's completely wrong-headed, you still have to go, or they get an easy or an automatic denial on your case. Okay, Radio Killer, where you been, man? In car. All right. Let's see. Twain Goodwin, I'm 70% for PTSD. I submitted a claim for chronic sinus with doctor diagnosis that it will not ever get better. Will that get me to 100% P&T? I don't know what the chronic sinusitis is. I'm thinking it's like a 30% rating, and my answer to that would be no. For a 70% rating, you would need, if you had a 50% rating on top of that, that would be 15%. That would only be 90. So you'd probably need another 70%. No. You probably need like an 80% rating, because 80%, well, 70% of 20 then would be, oh man, I'm really bad at this, would be 14, which gets you up to 94%. I got a calculator. I built it for this on our website, so go look at that. My math is it's attorney math, which is something I would not recommend you come to us for. The answer is no. You'd have to get a very, very high rating, and that's the frustrating thing about VA math. James Sellers, can I claim urinary frequency secondary to intervertebrate disc syndrome with degenerative arthritis? Yes, you can. This is something that, great spot, James. This is something that vets miss all the time. And again, spine claims can be a lot like tinnitus in that they rate them ridiculously low. I think, if I see a veteran with a 20% rating for a spine, I know that veteran's in some serious pain. A 40% rating, which I rarely see, that person should be totally disabled. So what you got to look to are the secondary problems it causes. And frankly, the one that I see hidden almost all the time is a urinary problem, either urinary frequency or incontinence. So those are what things you need to look for. Whenever you have something that causes, how can I say that? Like that's a systematic disability, I think, with a spine injury. And so you want to look and see what secondary issues there are. So yes, please file that, James, and hopefully you get the higher rating you deserve. Major 33, claiming plus planus, first reported during AIT after basic. I have my DD form 2807 stating normal arches, but the military wrote congenial planus during my podiatrist. Okay, so that's what they wrote in service, that it was congenital. And his current podiatrist said it was acquired, but not due to family history. I was sent to Walter Reed for shoe inserts that didn't work. Do I have enough in my claim form 2807 and medical paperwork form for active duty? So I butchered reading through all that, but the answer is yes, you have a good claim. If the VA, say the Department of Defense, does not note a disability, an active disability at your entrance exam, okay, so let me define that. You had a knee injury while playing football in high school. Your knee is okay, but it still has a limited range of motion, but the doctor says, look, he can still run, he can still carry a rucksack, he's fine. But it noted that. It said that you still have a limited range of motion. At that point, the VA has something to go back on and say, hey, this is prior to service. It's not congenital, but still it's prior to service. If there is nothing noted on your entrance exam about a knee, for the VA to say, or the military to say, once you're in the military, to say, this exists prior to service, they don't get to do that with the VA. You have what's called a presumption of soundness, meaning you entered service in a sound manner. And by doing so, I would say that they have to prove, if something existed prior to service, they have to prove through clear and unmistakable evidence. Okay, the burden shifts to them, and they're the ones that have to prove that clear and unmistakable evidence. That's basically undebatable. You right here have a claim from a form from your doctor saying this wasn't congenital. So you have a very strong claim. Let me go back to that example with the knee. Okay, so let's say you injured your knee playing football in high school, but you had it repaired. It's totally fine. And frankly, a lot of the injuries, when you go through rehab, you actually get that knee can be stronger than the other knee. So the doctor notes that on your entrance exam, had major injury playing football, now it's fine. That also does not count for a pre-existing condition because the condition no longer exists. Your knee is fine. Okay. Whenever I see the VA deny somebody, and this happens a lot with mental health conditions, because it's congenital or it pre-existed service, I dig into that because I think that those are the cases the VA messes up a lot. People ask me all the time about Q claims. Should I file Q for this, Q for that? 95% of the time, I'm going to say no, never file Q claim because it's too hard to win. However, if somebody got denied due to something existing prior to service, that's a claim I am likely to file a Q claim if it's no longer on appeal, if it happened a long time ago. Whew. All right, Major. Hopefully I answered your question. That was kind of a long one. Scott. And they denied my migraine secondary to PTSD. Scott, we're following up on the, oh shoot, Scott, where are we here? I don't know where you started, Scott. They denied my migraine secondary to PTSD. If I did a CMP sleep study and was rated 30% for OSA, why did they not do a second sleep study for CPAP? Now I have to wait 6 to 7 weeks for a VA appointment to get prescribed one and submit an increase. So submit the increase now. Just because you don't have the device now doesn't mean you don't need it. Okay, that's a huge difference the VA doesn't want you to know. Okay, you need the device now. The fact that you can't get in because VA takes forever, VHA and VBA sometimes, it should not count against you. So file that claim now. Okay, and as far as what they study for CPAP, they're not really in the business of diagnosing you. The C&P examiners, like they usually look to your records, but why didn't they do that? I don't know, because they're lazy. But file the claim now, Scott. That's a big takeaway. AEH, I have a 30% rating for asthma. However, my forced expiratory volume is at a level of 60. What do I need to do to prove the VA to win the appeal? I would wonder if they're saying that's due to something else, saying that, you have asthma, but you have a pulmonary problem, and the pulmonary problem is not service connected. That doesn't make sense to me. I would point that out, and hopefully you can say this is solely due to the asthma, but without more information, I can't really help you there, unfortunately. Okay, Rye just got the results from my GERD increase for C&P, and they did not check the box of considerable impairment of health. Does that mean I'm stuck at 10%, even if the shoulder, even with the shoulder pain listed? So I would write a letter back to that, kind of a rebuttal of the C&P exam, saying they never spoke to this, and they should have, because I told the doctor this affects my health, and here is how. And you go boom, boom, boom on the dots why. At the least, you should have another C&P exam. If you have a competent adjudicator, they should just give you the increase right there. Brent, is just having a diagnosis from your doctor enough to get a good rating for any condition? My doctors have not been making thorough doctor notes. They don't oh boy, I just lost that. Where'd it go? They don't talk about my symptoms. This sounds like you got to go to a C&P exam. Unfortunately, if they're not taking good notes, you got to go and see what they say. If you have thorough notes, or if the doctor is thorough in the statement that he writes, then yeah, I think you should be able to get it. That doesn't mean they won't send you a C&P exam. In fact, I see them do that more often than not. You say, hey, here's my claim for increase, and they go, oh, this does look worse. Let's send you to C&P. Should they do that? No, but do they do that? Yes. ZJ, where can I get more information about CHAMP VA health insurance? I think we have an article about that on our website. I'm not positive. I would go see a veteran service officer or a patient advocate in the hospital. They're so much better at that than I am, because we don't typically deal with the back end. I try to get people CHAMP VA, but I don't ever see what that looks like insurance wise. Joshua, GERD. What does considerable impairment of health mean? Is it a requirement to be marked with significant symptoms? See, this is one of those terms of art. Okay, what does it mean? I don't know. I mean, it's funny, they try to make these C&P exams objective. That's a pretty subjective thing, and that's why I'm saying go ahead and write a letter detailing all the things it affects you on. Does it affect your day-to-day life? Where else does it affect you in your body? Those are things I would look to submit, because you have a good, unless they say considerable impairment of health means you can't swallow anything. Okay, if that's what they're saying, then that's what it means. But I don't get the impression they do that. Dwayne, generally, why doesn't regional grant mental health claims? So I always got to start with this disclaimer. I only see denials, so I'm very skewed in what I believe. Okay, they probably grant thousands or maybe even tens of thousands of these claims a year, but the claims that come to me are ones where they deny. I think the VA has a problem. I call them invisible wounds, and I did a quick YouTube on this, but the VA has trouble believing that there's a disability when they can't see it. Let's say you have an amputated arm. They can see that. They can't really fight it, right? Or let's say you have diabetes and you have, a glucose reading of 120 or 130. Well, that's a diagnostically proven right there, right? Whereas mental health claims, they say, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that. I just don't think they do a good job. And this also goes for migraines and in fibromyalgia, frankly. They just don't like the claims that they can't see. That's my thought. D. Smith, if you can cite historic VA case law results in a higher level appeal, is that considered new evidence and not considered? I would do that if it's about something like a base where you were exposed to something, or there's a reference to scientific articles It's not binding on the VA, but I think you can submit it and say, this is what my case is. You know, my fibromyalgia is due to this. Look what they said in this article quoted by the BVA, and that is new and relevant evidence. Mu Beta Phi Cosmo. I have a claim pending for PTSD. How hard is it to claim sleep apnea secondary to PTSD? Sleep apnea it's hard. It's hard because the VA hates it and they just deny it out of hand. You are going to need a doctor for that. Sherry Suze, I'm bipolar 2, was denied since I applied for depression. That is, I hate that. Sorry. When you apply for a mental health condition, you are not a doctor. You are not allowed, you're allowed, but you're not able to say with medical certainty, this is what I have. The VA, and there's a case called Clemens that you should just write down. Clemens, I don't know if it was Vicensecchi, I think it was, where the VA, basically the Veterans Court said, the VA cannot limit your claim to what you say if you are not a medical doctor. So meaning you can say, I have depression, but if it's a different mental health condition, they can't say, oh, you didn't have depression, I'm not even looking at this bipolar. No, they got to look at that, especially when the evidence shows that's what's going on. California Bear Republic. Will a FOIA request for medical records related to an active claim delay the review for a compensation claim? If they have the medical records at the VA, it should not. Okay. All right, now through that article up there in Shinsplints, that's great. Wendell, coming from Las Vegas, Nevada. I was just out there for a vacation, and I want you to know that I invested in the community there in the Bellagio by making a donation that I wish I could have back, but that is what it is. Sherry, currently on LV absence, long-term absence for work for my PTSD and bipolar. So you need to appeal that. Hopefully that's still on appeal, meaning like you're still within the appeal window. And say, okay, I don't care what you label this because it doesn't matter. Under the mental health diagnostic code, whatever mental health conditions out there, that's what they have to do. Okay, Maurice, why the VA denied my claim for aid and attendance without more information? I can't help you on that. Mark, I had a couple of relatives ask me about Camp Lejeune. Do you know if a brother or cousin would be entitled to compensation if they had a relative serve there? What about a son? Yes, we've been handling a lot of these cases. We've teamed up with this is a case where you have to, let me back up. This is a case where you have to have an attorney because you have to file at the federal district court in North Carolina's Eastern District. It doesn't matter who you are. If you were at Camp Lejeune for 30 days, this includes in utero, by the way, you have a claim. Okay, so let's say your brother came and visited you for Christmas one year for 2 weeks, and you were stationed there still the next year, and came for spring break, and then came for another week over, whatever that is, Turkey Day, and that all adds up to 30 days. Then yeah. So anybody who was on the base with you, that all goes there. So let's see here, Sherry. How do I apply for my MST, PTSD, and bipolar, which was diagnosed in service? Just say that I have, just say exactly that. I would describe broad strokes, if you will, the instance that happened, just so they have new and relevant evidence, and then just submit it in there. I think, oh man, I forgot the name of the form. I think that's a 526. If you 21 5-526 if you haven't filed that claim before. John Price, I have service-connected PTSD and psoriatic arthritis. VA denied service connection. Just lost higher level review. Should I keep putting in claims? 3 Nexus letters from a rheumatologist and my doctor. I would get a copy of the C&P exam and see what in the world they must be saying that refutes your doctor. Okay. It sounds like you got a great doctor going to bat for you if you put in 3 Nexus statements. So I would look at it and see what's the difference between theirs and yours. And then I go to your rheumatologist and say, hey, this is what they're saying. Is this right? And hopefully he writes a rebuttal. So your initial question, yes, appeal. And then that's the evidence I'd look to get. Us living our dream. I was exposed to asbestos while in the Navy. Recently approved service connection for emphysema and lung nodules. They used my references to be exposed to asbestos, but gave me a 0% rating. How to appeal? Wait, hold on. Sorry, where's the rest of this question? How to appeal? I mean, I'd appeal higher level review is what I'd do. Oh my gosh, Wendell, you're giving a free plug here. Check out Combat Craig on your YouTube, who's a sponsor for Helen Pond. He gets all the credit. All right, Lonnie, I filed for ANA for a back disability at 60%, bowel incontinence at 100%, and urinary incontinence at 60. I was denied by the VA, stating that I'm receiving ANA already for loss of use of both feet. Ooh, this is a great question here. Can I receive 2 separate ANAs? Okay, special monthly compensation is basically money you can get, levels you can get above 100%, because, you know, the VA in their math, 100% is not 100%. ANA is something you can get for basically showing that you need somebody else to help you for these issues. You have legitimate cause to me for 2 separate ANAs because you have loss of use of feet. That's an automatic ANA. It's automatic level L. And then you have ANA for these other issues. So what would happen there, and this is definitely an appeal because I'm sure that the fool on the rating line has no idea how this works, but what would happen there is if you have one L and you have another L that's due to aid and attendance, you actually jump way up. So you go from S to L to M to N to O to R. You would jump all the way up to O, which is a massive increase. I mean, I think it's 5,000 or 6,000 at least a month. So yes, you have a very good claim. You need to appeal this because sorry, I'm being a little mean to the VA today, but they don't know what they're doing there. Yeah, okay, great. You can't receive another ANA, but you know what? You can receive a big increase in your special monthly compensation. Fight that. We fight a lot of these SMCs because frankly, we have to go all the way to the board because the VA has no idea what they're doing. So just, keep on forward there. Okay. Sherry, so put in new evidence, if you will, on the MST, as far as if you can just write a short statement, what happened and why it's related, and you can go from there. Charles, my 3rd try to get service connected for sleep apnea, 2nd to PTSD, 1st denied in 16, saying obesity was a contributing factor. 2nd denial was low T. Okay, this is interesting. So what caused the obesity? Okay, is that related to service? Like, are you with the PTSD, are you kind of locked away? Do you not go out? Do you keep to yourself? Do you have another service-connected disability like back or something that would keep you sedentary? I'd look at that. And then, as I said earlier, they do not like these claims. Okay, so you need an IME again to go in and still just to go in with the obesity. And to go in with the PTSD being the primary cause. You're going to have to go to the board. We have a lot of those claims and we very rarely win at the regional office. 08204 KRT, stuck at 90%, haven't worked in 2 years. Can I file TDIU while still filing for other claims? Can you include those TDIU? So yes, you can file TDIU with any and all claims. I don't know that I include non-service connected claims in the TDIU. We do that all the time, but our goal, like say you got a vet who's trying to get PTSD service connected. I know I can get that vet service connected for PTSD. They're not service connected for anything else. I will say that's the reason under TDIU, but they deny it like that. They say, oh, well, no, look at this. You're not service connected for that. If you are at 90 for other issues, I just put those. Kevin KP Powers, I plan to claim TBI and aid in attendance. Already 70% for PTSD, 50% for migraines, 50% for sleep apnea, 10 for tinnitus. Whoever up there asked about the sinusitis, if I get that service connected, I already have the PTSD at 70. Just look at this. He's not able to. From what I can see, it's not like you're getting. Maybe you are at 100%. Can they still combine those with TBI, or am I good for TBI to stay on? I would file for the TBI. Okay. If there are distinct issues with the TBI, they need to rate that separately. If they combine them, and I've seen cases now where I have not been able to get them to pull them apart because the major problem with the TBI is actually mental health condition. Okay, but you want that to be on there. You want to be service connected for TBI because if things get really, really bad, if you need somebody day in, day out, at that point you're going to want to file for a higher level of SMC, either aid in attendance or even SMCT. Bamboo Pandolfi. Hello, my sleep apnea claim was denied. Rater wrote, the medical opinion we received from the VA Medical Center was more persuasive than your private opinion because it was based on a thorough review of your relevant military personal history, blah, blah, blah. My IMO was 6 pages long, backed by studies. ACE examiner wrote 3 sentences. Can this be one in HLR? Yes, I would do that. And I would, again, it sounds like you already have a copy of the ACE exam. I would just compare and contrast those. I'd go HLR. And when you get the guy on the phone, you say, hey, look, here's what he said in 3 sentences. And here's what my doctor said with studies. So the whole, my doctor didn't look at everything. If he's actually going out and getting studies, he knows what I have, he knows where I was. That's bogus. Just because their doctor looked at some record that your doctor didn't, the VA still has to show the relevance of that record. Okay. The VA used to say, oh, our doctors look at the C file, yours didn't, therefore our doctor wins. Well, the Veterans Court came down like a hammer on that and said, it doesn't matter if they looked at the C file. What matters is they looked at relevant evidence and they have to speak to what that was. Joseph, Mr. Hill, has BVA made any significant progress concerning completion of legacy appeals? Not that I know of. I will be at our NOVA, National Organization of Veterans Advocates seminar next week. The BVA chairman is supposed to be there. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But if they're there, you better bet a shiny penny that I'm going to be asking that, trying to figure out what they're doing and where they are. Kerman, from your experience, why is it so hard to get the last 10%, 90, and the dead last 10%? Well, so if you're at 90, let's just say you're at 90 for one disability. Well, here's the problem. 90% can mean you're at 85 and they round it up, or you're at 94 and they round it down. Okay, if you're at 94 and you get another 10% rating, that would get you up to 95 and boost you. Okay, but if you're at 85 and you get a 10% rating, I think that gets you up to 87. Again, use my calculator because it's bad. But if you're at straight 90, okay, it's one disability, and you get a 40% rating on top of that, that only gets you to 94%, which rounds you down. So essentially, if you're at 90%, you have to get another 50% rating. It's crazy. And that's why, I always look to see, are you working? Okay. Because if you're at 90%, that's some pretty serious disabilities, just pretty significant problems you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And if you're not working, TDIU is the way to go, because it's so much more simple just to bridge that gap by saying, hey, I can't work due to this, than it is to kind of get a dink and dunk here and there on other little things. Soulful Silk, if I have tinnitus, might be tinnitus, use CPAP, hypertension, hearing problems, and haven't filed a claim yet, what's my best course of action? File a new claim. Again, that's 21/5/26, and file those now. Okay. Mark, the veteran I care for was awarded SMCS, but PCP told us I should be rated at TMC SMCT. We have a higher level review coming up next week. The primary care provider filed a letter stating nursing home was without home care. Trying to digest that, Mark. So I would argue off, actually, this is pretty good. I would argue off what the doctor said. And if you are caring for the veteran, you need to speak to the day-to-day issues you help them with. What the VA wants to see for SMCT is that you are performing medical care under the direction of a doctor. So the easiest thing to think about is like you're giving the veteran shots on a daily basis, or you're giving the veteran, like traction on their back under the guidance of a doctor. So if you have those, you need to think about that and, speak to those when you talk to the higher level review. If you lose there, go to the board. We have been handling a ton of these SMCT cases, and the VA hates them. They don't want to pay more money. They don't want to give it out. But you have a strong case from what it seems, and these are the kind of cases we are filing and taking to the board. You got to wait 3-4 years because the board is so unbelievably backlogged right now. But do not give up on this case. Especially if you're saying, doctor's saying without your help, you'd be in the nursing home. Roscoe, I have a CMP exam for increased diabetes rating. They took notice of a skin-picking self-injurious behavior. Possibly they increased PTSD rating as well. You need to point that out. That doctor was not a mental health doctor. I would point that out and say, this came up during exam. I want this to be noted as well. R. Bentley 76, what paperwork do I need to file for industrial solvent claim for kidney cancer as an aircraft mechanic? You need to file a claim. Okay. So if you haven't filed this before, it's the, as I said, the 526. If you have filed before, then you need to file on the supplemental claim, and then you need to show what solvents you were exposed to. I've never won one of these claims without a doctor. These are hard cases. We win them all the time, but they're hard, and you got to have a good medical nexus, and you got to be prepared to fight against the VA for those. So, we deal with we've been dealing with aircraft mechanics from Vietnam era all the way up till now. They just keep on denying it when there's just so much evidence that the toxins, the TCE, even the gasoline you dealt with is very, very problematic. All right, Johnny White, working on third attempt to connect service-connected related injury to my back. Is it a better option to look into continue? I'm so sorry. Look into connecting it to my service-connected left knee as secondary? Okay, so I'm just trying to figure this out. Third attempt to connect service-connected related injury to my back. I'd look to both. I'd say, hey, I'm not a doctor, but I know that either my knee and how it's thrown off my gait, or my back, I have to compensate for it. One of these two has caused this problem. So I do both. Soulful Silk, we answered that earlier. Shipper Lee, I have a CMP for sinusitis. Had a CMP for sinusitis. They took an x-ray, but the doctor did not even look at me. They were supposed to do a general, but he said you don't have to do that. The last x-ray was 76 active duty. Great. If that comes out negative, I would definitely point that out in a higher level review. And I would write a thorough statement as far as what he did, how long it took, and what he said. I mean, you haven't had what is that? It's over 40 years. You're going on 50 years there. So yeah, I would definitely write that out, but let's see what happens first. John, my VSO said that I cannot file for back claim. I had a back injury on appeal and waiting for video conference with appeal judge. Is this true? If you already have a claim in the system, then no, you can't. I mean, you can, but it'll totally screw everything up, because you'll have two competing claims, and then the VA will drop it here, and then the VA up here will say, oh, you got another claim, and they'll drop it there. So you do not want to do that. You got to wait. The only way to do that is if you want to, you file a withdrawal of that video conference and a withdrawal of the appeals. I'm assuming you're at the board. That means you lose any and all back benefits there. So it's your choice there, but just understand what happens. Michael, been 100% for PTSD with TBI since 18. Just got a letter saying they gave me P&T. What are the chances of getting SMCT? Is there a CMP for that? What about aid and attendance? Chance of getting them both? So you can get T or aid and attendance if you have somebody helping you on a daily basis. That's what they're looking for. Okay. If you don't have that, I wouldn't file anything. But if you get to that point, I would. Edward, I have several non-service connected disabilities that are not coded service connected. Why not? They all happened while I was on service. I never had to do a line of duty determination. Then you need to file for those. I don't file for them and show how they're related to service. Ronald, I filed chronic sinusitis in 2000, was diagnosed under Gulf War and burn pit, was denied and appealed by the judge. I filed again in 21, was denied. I was approved on approved for higher level review this year, it looks like. Can I file Q? I don't know that there's Q in a prior decision because the law changed. So unfortunately, I do not think you can. I was 93% disabled and was receiving TDIU. Recently, I was upgraded 100% P&T with TDIU. The TDIU is mute. Can I work if I can? Can I work? If I can, are there restrictions? I was told no. Okay, so I don't understand. You said you were upgraded 100% permanent total with TDIU. That to me means that you're still TDIU. It's just they upgraded you to the permanent total. So if you are TDIU, you cannot work in an open competitive market and make more than, I think it's $12,000 a year. Okay, so that would endanger it. If you work in something like, for your family, or you own a business where you get to make your hours, then yeah, you could do that. But I think you're still on TDIU. Doc Field Good. I had a CMP exam seeking an upgrade for my PTSD of 70% to 100%. The examiner asked for my subjective opinion about my health. I explained them objectively speaking and spent 3 months inpatient. Long story short, they said I just had depression. So basically, they used your words against you and sent you to an inpatient mental health. It looks like that's awful. Sorry, and the fact that they changed the depression is awful too. So I would definitely be writing a statement about that. The time you're an inpatient, they give you 100% if it's over 21 days. So they should have given you that, and you need to appeal. That sounds like a creep of a doctor. I mean, it'd be one thing if he thought you were a danger to yourself or to others, and they put you in, an inpatient setting. But the fact that he didn't show how significant this disability was on the C&P exam, that's despicable. Soulful skill, look up top. I think I did answer your question. Bro man, I received disability increase at age 57 based on secondary condition of peripheral neuropathy. Is PN one of those conditions that requires future exam even though I'm over 55, excuse me. Anything can require a future exam. You want to get a copy of the rating code sheet, Code sheet goes on the back of your rating decision. The VA does not send it to you unless you ask. On there, it'll list all your disabilities, and under each disability, it'll list if it's static or not. If it's static, they should not send you to another exam, okay? That's the rule. Do they violate that sometimes? Yeah, but that's the rule on that. Mama Tobez, VA told C&P machine is hard to get and wants to fit a dental mouthpiece. Delay tactic? Husband community care doctor says no, and he can get him a machine faster as VA. Yeah, I'd go through that. Could they not have machines? Yeah, it's possible. This is the VA we're talking about. They should, but I mean, if you can get it faster, then I would go from there. Jason, what are my chances of a successful higher level? I have 10% for my knee, 20% requires prescription of assistant device. The VA fitted me with a brace. After surgery, I received another one. I would just point out that you have a brace. If you have a medical record from the VA, that would be better. That's what I would look to do. And you said all documents are turned in. So I'd speak to the examiner about that and say, hey, look, this is what I had. Why is this, excuse me, not the examiner, I'm hoping the higher level review, you're having a hearing so you can walk that person through it. But if not, I'd write a short letter saying, I need assisted brace, here it is. So hopefully you are able to win that. Big Papa Doc 12, since I wasn't tested for sleep apnea while serving, should I put a claim for allergic rhinitis secondary sleep apnea afterwards, or can I put them both together? Put them both together. They got to look at it as a direct service or secondary. Ray Atkinson, good to see you. What is the average time to request for increased back? Already had C&P, 90 days, 120 days, would like to know. I mean, they were telling us it's supposed to be within 3 months. I think within 6 months is what we are seeing, but I don't know. I mean, they just keep on getting more and more backlogged. So I can't give you. Do I put at risk my favorable ratings of 40%? 20% for each leg radiculopathy. Okay, if I do a higher level review for my PTSD claim, do I put at risk my other back claims? No, you don't, because those aren't at issue. I mean, excuse me, they can review you at any time, but the fact that you have a PTSD claim, that's over in this lane, and unless you file for a new claim for those, I don't see that happening. Pablo Torres, I have an appointment with the VA hospital for a specialist to look at my wrist. It's been giving out since I've been out and I didn't file for the claims. What do I do when I get this appointment? First, file a claim now, okay? When you go to the appointment, say, hey, doc, how do you think I got this? Like, what do you think? Like, here's what happened to me in service. Here's what I was doing in service. Do you think that could be related? Doc says, well, yeah, you don't have any other causality here that I see. Then you say, okay, would you put that down in the medical record? That's what I would do. Let's see, 73, Novaman 73. I had a hearing test for tinnitus, got 10%, but my C&P examiner showed that the hearing test, and showed me the hearing test was bad. Dropped off a normal hearing in both ears. Should I file for hearing loss? Yes. Raphael, with veteran law judge, can I ask for unemployment type? I was forced to quit my job. I'm asking for an increased right knee. You can. I would file that separately, though. The TDIU claim, I'd file that at the regional office under I think you have to file that for the first time under 21 and 526. But when you get awarded your other claim, you want your TDIU to go all the way with that as far as how far back it goes. You don't want the TDIU to be the date you filed that form. You want it to go all the way back to whatever the BVA decision was. Paul Harper applied for PTSD in 18, denied, appealed, waited several years. VA judge remanded, new exam, awarded service connection, but only back to the date of diagnosis in 2022. Yes, you can request back pay. I just did a video on this the other day on YouTube on how this just drives me nuts. They save themselves. They keep millions and tens of millions of dollars a year by screwing over vets on back pay. Cases that have gone on forever and ever. They just say, oh, we're going to take this back to the CMP exam, or oh, we're going to take this back to the date you filed the TDIU. So yes, Paul, definitely file an appeal there. Stephen, I filed for sleep apnea secondary to VA-rated chronic sinusitis rhinitis, have a DBQ and IMO, more likely than not, CPAP and mouthpiece given by the VA. How long are sleep studies good for? I don't know. It's a medical thing. I would say a sleep study is good until you get the next one. And so if they deem you need a next one, then you do. Brandon Thomas, hello, new viewer here. What are my odds of getting PTSD rated if I never got diagnosed while in service? I started experiencing symptoms about a year after I got out. You need to show what in service was causing those symptoms, okay? Were you in a war zone? Were you assaulted? Did you have a horrific experience stateside? So you need to show that. And then once you show that, then that you have PTSD, then you should be able to get it connected from there. Ronaldo, just recently started following and listening. How can I make an appointment to review my claim denials, PTSD, migraines, or even through letters of favorable call for? You can do that online. I think I should know this, but there's a page where you can file online that will allow you to. Sorry about that. Just go online and there's something to fill out. We'll give you a call and check out any decisions you have to see if we can help you. Let's see. Elma, good afternoon. How has the BVA been waiting for 2 years for compensation? I'm not going to defend them. I think it's absolutely absurd, but they seem to be more backed up month by month. Mark, Camp Lejeune question. Brother, cousin, son did not serve at Camp Lejeune, but they had a relative that did serve at Camp Lejeune and since passed away from a packed cancer. Okay, so they have an actual claim in and of themselves if they were there for more than 30 days. You do not have to serve anybody, and this was mainly made for families because now you see that they've had the presumptives for Camp Lejeune for some time now for the veteran, and what this PACT Act section did is made it to where all the other people who were there can also file. Mike Huss, Brandon Thomas, I did not get PTSD. Okay, Super High Ram MM. I have service connected for tinnitus, autoimmune disease. I'd like to file secondary for anxiety and migraines for my tinnitus, depression for the autoimmune disease. Who should write my Nexus letter? If you're seeing a mental health counselor, I would have them do it, or a therapist, or a doctor, hopefully. Sonia Johns, my husband received 100% PTSD homebound and SMC homebound with other injuries. Can he leave the house? Yes, you can leave the house. There are two types of SMCS. One is you literally can't leave the house except to do vital things like go to the doctor, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy, okay? There's another type where if a veteran is 100% for one disability, or for one disability, they get unemployability and they have other disabilities that combine to 60%, they can also receive SMCS. The important thing to remember there is that the first one, homebound, you can't leave the house. That's one where you can't go out to bars, you can't go out partying, you can't go to watch a football game. But if you have SMCS due to the combination of the 100% and 60% for others, then there are no restrictions on you like that. Burrow, I had an MRI in September 22. May I file a claim for torn cal on my right knee secondary to left knee? Of course, you can file it. Jerry, PTSD was dropped from my PTSD from 50 to 30 back in August. Found out I was awarded 70% in June. I appealed the 30% in January. Nobody knows what's going on. Yeah, that sounds very bizarre. If you were 70%, I would withdraw whatever appeal for the 30% because those are different dates. So I think you should be able to get it. Okay, Brent, what evidence do I need to submit for my depression, mental health? All I have is anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. If you are not service connected, you got to show what happened in service to cause it. If you are service connected, go to the VA. Let's see if I can multitask here. You want to go to the VA websites for the. Let me just grab this real quick to show. Oh man. Okay, looks like I don't have it, but there is the VA website for their DBQs is what you're looking for. And I don't have that up, unfortunately, but the disability benefits questionnaire, you want to look at that and see what of those symptoms you have, what are those problems you have, and make sure those are listed, okay? Okay, Mike Huss, 2 years ago, no, 2 years ago after spending, okay, that's talking to somebody else. James Woods just had a CMP for hypertension due to Vietnam Pact Act. I'm on medication for hypertension. How can the VA rate hypertension if you're on medication? They rate it saying how bad is it. I think medication, if you're on medication, that's a 10% rating, but if it's uncontrolled, even on medication, then you can get a higher rating from that. This is another case, James, where you need to look and see what secondary problems you have to that. Have you ever had a stroke? Do you have heart problems? Hypertensive, heart disease is a big one. Do you have diabetes? The thing about hypertension, it's like a gateway disease, okay? It in and of itself might not be rated that high, but it causes so many secondary problems that you need to be looking at those. And that's where you should probably be getting your higher rating. A COPE submitted a claim and it triggered another intent to file. I received 100% P&T, but effective date is wrong. They used the last intent to file instead of the current one that was still active. I think I need dates on that. I don't quite understand that, ACOPE. So sorry. Bobby, question, do you need your full employment history on Social Security form in order to file for TDIU? No, you file TDIU. If they want it, they should go get it. If they can't get it, then they ask you. Vera, Social Security declared me unemployable in 21. May I yes, file TDIU right now. If you can't work, do at least part to your VA disabilities. Us living in our dream, VA used my evidence as asbestos exposure, but approved emphysema and pulmonary lung, appeal to the higher level blue. Yes, do that. Come back, Craig's here. Man, he is got crazy with the cheese whiz and the emojis today. How about that? Alito, I was denied back in 2015 for Meniere's disease. They said that it's not service connected due to lack of medical proof. In March 22, they approved it for 100%. Can I get back pay? Unless you filed appeals from then till now, no. Q claim would be if they had the evidence that it was back then and they didn't have any other evidence against it, then you could. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. Johnny, I apologize. Yes, it was for a back injury that was denied 3 times, and now I'm going after secondary for my knee, which is service connected. This came from suggestion PA. Okay, great. Just file it. Just file it. Say I think this is secondary to my orthopedic dues. Sherry, how do I get 100% or TDIU for my PTSD for MST, family death, Hurricane Andrew? Want them to know my bipolar. Want them to know that my bipolar, which is 0% rated in 19. Don't know how to file this. Okay, so if you have a 0% rating, that means you filed it before. You're going to file a supplemental claim. You don't care what they call it. Okay. And this is hard to appreciate sometimes because, there can be pride in something that happened to you in service. But remember, what you're applying for is service-connected compensation, okay? You are not applying for a title or a name. I have a service-connected disability. That's not what you want. You want the compensation you deserve due to this, okay? So let them name whatever it is they want to name for your mental health condition because it's already rated at 0%. So you need to file a claim for increase, okay? You need to file a supplemental claim for increase saying this has gotten worse. I can't work due to this mental health condition. And you file the TDIU form with that. Okay. Let's see, Rick, U.S. Navy, honorably discharged 87, have waited for my records for a year for a knee accident service. Should I continue waiting? Do not continue waiting. File the claim now. They should go get that. 100% permanent total TDIU is moot. VA says that because I'm permanent total, I would have to work for a year and then contact VA to have TDIU removed. Oh man, that's so bizarre. If you have disabilities, go to our go to our calculator and look at all your disabilities and the ratings. Make sure they combine to 100%, and then yeah, go back to work. TKJ just got IBS, headache, DBQ completed. Both are in my service treatment records. Do you think I need a Nexus for both, or just do direct claims? Do the direct claims, okay? Send in the DBQ, and hopefully they grant it there. Otherwise, they'll send you to a examiner, and hopefully that's an honest examiner. Remy 86, good to see you. I have an SSOC and was given 30 days to respond. I have an HLR that I have to submit by the 26th of next month. If I submit the HLR, will affect my SSOC. So, Remy, you're in two different processes. The SSOC is in the legacy, what used to be for the appeals for forever, and then the higher level review is the new claim. So, first of all, you don't have to respond. They just say if you want 30 days, if you have something to say to them, then respond. But if you don't, then there's no need to respond. It's not going to stop your claim. That case has been going on a lot longer. So you're dealing with back, much more in the way of back benefits. The other case with the HLR has not been going on as long. So I would, if it's the same claim, then I'd want to focus on the SSOC. And frankly, I'd want to drop the one that's at the HLR. If it's not, then you have two claims going on kind of independent on their own, and you need to file for both. Okay, Doc Field, good. Guys, I got to cut off a bit early today, so we're let's say about 8 minutes out. What challenges do you see veterans having causing denials of upgrades for 70% to 100%? I was thinking about this the other day. I've been working with vets now for about 15 years. I've handled over 1,000 mental health claims, and the difference between 70% and 100%, it is so hard under the current diagnostic code rating right now to get 100%. The folks that I've gotten 100%, and I'm talking a couple dozen, okay, they were pretty close to needing to be inpatient. One gentleman I had a conference with on a Wednesday, and we met up in the St. Pete RO a conference on a Monday, and we met up for the hearing on a Thursday, and he smelt absolutely awful. He was wearing the exact same clothes that he'd been wearing on Monday to my office, and I talked him through that. He hadn't showered. He actually hadn't showered since the prior week, and we talked about what that was all about and what was going on. And, he was someone who also couldn't remember names of close family relatives. So that is something that you'd be looking for to get 100%. When I have a vet who's 70% for PTSD, again, I'm beating a dead horse here, but I always go back, are they working? Okay, because 70% for PTSD means that they have a problem with anger, they have a problem with isolation, they have a problem with keeping friendships, relationships, and surely can't get any new relationships. So if I look at those and I want to see if they're working, I'll say, what kind of work are they doing? And is this something that they have sheltered even if they don't know it? That's the straight away way to get to 100%, the way I see. Because getting 100%, VA literally wants to see that you're an inpatient or that you almost should be. And again, that I think I got a pretty good sample size with dealing over about 1,000 vets who are at 70%. So it's hard. Steve, 67 now, 4 years, infantry airborne. I'm at 80%. What are the odds being reduced at my age? The odds are against you being reduced if those are all static disabilities. If you file an increase for those disabilities and they say, no, there's no increase here, and in fact, it's better, then they could reduce you. But if you're not looking to get back in the system, you should be okay. If it is worse, you could apply for somehow get 100% or unemployability. Remember, age does not matter when it comes to unemployability. Then it's worth filing for, I would think. Derek, I had a CMP exam for insomnia secondary to my back that is rated 40%. She stated that I didn't think insomnia would fly and instead diagnosed me with major depressive disorder. Would this suffice if I don't have a Nexus? Yeah, if you have a 40% rating, I was talking about this earlier, for your back, that is devastating. The VA does a really bad job of rating back. So when I see somebody with a 40% rating, your whole life has changed. Your identity has changed. What you used to do, you can probably no longer do. Who you were tied up in what you were doing is no longer you. I see major depression all the time, secondary to back, and I think it's one that's overlooked. So yeah, I think you should go with that. Let's see, Dan, can you be denied TDIU because of your wife's income? You cannot. It's just you. Sherry, can I get an increase on migraines? I get 10% now, currently filing for my PTSD. You can, and the key word here is prostrate, okay? I can't tell you how many times when I and see that I end up saying prostate, but the key word is prostrate. Okay. And basically what that means is you have to lie down because of your migraines. You know, typically people are in a dark room, they have to get away from the noise, but they have to lay down. If you have to do that regularly, then yes, you should get at least a 30% rating. Ross, I had surgery back in June on my neck, previously surgery in mine for 60%. I've submitted an increase for 100%. What are the odds of me getting that? I'd look for IU here because getting a neck or a back at 100% is very, very difficult. Dennis, do I need a diagnosis for tinnitus, or will they determine? They have to determine that if you don't have it. Sandra, service connected 40%, 20 for left shoulder, arthritis, tendonitis. Doctor said, now I have a shoulder impingement. Should that something I file secondary? If that causes a different symptomatology or increases whatever symptoms you have, yes, you should. Michael, CMP for aid and attendance. Can I hire you if I get a decision letter, favorable P&T, for you to see if you can help getting anything else? You can always reach out to us, but yeah, you need a decision first, and then we need to review that to see if it's something we can help. MODOC, what is meant by you can't make a higher appeal claim of a higher claim? So you start with a new claim, supplemental claim, that gets denied. You then file for, you can file to the BVA, you can file a supplemental claim, but if you file for a higher level review and you're denied there, your options are then either to file to the board or to file a supplemental claim. You can't file an appeal at the regional office, higher level review to the higher level review. Chris Leon 59. I had a cardiac MRI, shows LVEF 50 to 55%. Would this be treated as 60% since the rating codes both meet 50% mark? It should be, but you got to look and see what your why did I just blank on this? Not your GAF, your METS, your METS score is. The doctor probably put that on there, and for METS for 60, I think you have to be like, is it 6 to 8 or 4 to 6? I'm sorry, I just blanked on that, but that's where you want to look and see, because they will they'll get you on that, and that they'll say, oh, even if you're 50-55, if your METs are 10, which basically means you can run like 8 miles, then you're fine. So you need to focus in, and if they get that wrong, you need to say, go from there. Okay. Preston Robert, 54 likes. Thanks, Preston. Little sister Susie, if I use a VSO, do I have to sign a power of attorney for them? Thank you. You do, but you know what? Your power of attorney, if you don't like them, you can go to another VSO, you can go to attorney. That doesn't bind you. What would bind you is if you went to one attorney and you signed a contract and you didn't like them, that could be harder to get out of. Tom, I have a psychologist appointment next week. How long should it take to hear back from the VA after that? I don't know. Should take a month, but it's taken 3 months to 6 months right now. So I can't tell you there. Michael, is COPD presumptive under the PACT Act, and will I need a Nexus? I would look that up. I think it is, but it just depends on where you were and what you did. Danny Gators, 1138. I had TBI at MOS, but they took me off-base civilian hospital. Those records are now nowhere to be found. Can I prove this still happened? Someone paid for the time I was at the hospital. Follow the money. Follow the money, or if you have somebody you're still buddies with from service, I would get them to talk about that. Say, hey, what's going on? Or not what's going on. What did you see? Do you remember this? Do you remember going to the hospital? Do you remember not being on base for a while? Get them to write about that. All right. Reno, can 100% but not P&T be requested to change P&T? Yes. They have stopped automatically awarding P&T, and I would request that and say, this is not getting better. This has been happening this long. My doctor said it's not going to get better. Leslie, TDIU exam completed recently. I'm currently homeless. Do you know how long it'll take to get a decision? If I'm denied, should I come to your company for file an appeal? You need to let them know you're homeless. You need to write them a letter and say, I need this expedited. Expedite's the word here, okay? I'm homeless, and you need to describe what homeless means to you, okay? Are you living in the park under a bush? Are you what they call housing insecure, meaning you're jumping from couch to couch to people who know you, but you don't have permanent housing. You need to let them know that. If you all can always come to us. You know, we always like looking at cases. I mean, I've told people before, we probably accept 4% of the cases that come in because we are just overwhelmed with vets who don't have the representation they need. And if that happens, we try to refer those cases out to other people just so they can get some kind of representation. Okay, TKJ, thanks, Matt. And diagnosed with dysphagia, GERD, small hyoidal hernia, and diverticulitis. Secondary claims Nexus since IBS gastros in my STRs. Yeah, if you got a Nexus, I'd definitely go for that. ACOPE, I'm not sure what all that is. Okay, so I think I'm at the end here, folks. I appreciate y'all coming on today. Hopefully we got some questions answered and get some of you guys in the right direction. We'll see you, I guess, sometime soon. I'm out for the next couple of weeks with Nova and other stuff, but hopefully I can get Carol and maybe Carrie to come back in and do some of these. So thanks so much. Y'all have a wonderful day.